He's the head coach of the East Tennessee State men's basketball program. Steve Forbes here with me on Tri-City Sports Now. Coach Forbes, I've been reading stuff on the internet about who you're scheduling for next basketball season. I've read Creighton, I've read Georgia State. What can you tell me? Who do you have lined up for the Bucks to play next season?
Well, obviously, it's still a work in progress, as you know. I don't think I've never finished the schedules before August since I've been here. Some games that we already have, as you alluded to, is we're at Creighton, at Georgia State. We have to return a game to Georgia Southern. We're going to play in the Sun Bowl Classic out in El Paso, Texas, right before Christmas. We'll open up with Wyoming and then probably play UTEP. Probably in the finals would be my guess. And Norfolk State's the other team in it. It's a true tournament situation or a classic. And then, we're just kind of working on some other games. It's hard to get home games. That's what we're working on right now, just try to get some quality, home games here in Freedom Hall.
Well, let's look at that Sun Bowl Classic. I'm assuming it would be taking place around the Sun Bowl towards the end of the year.
Correct.
But, of course, UTEP has the Citadel's old athletic director, so I'm sure that's how he knows about you and ETSU. But would that mean possibly that other Southern Conference teams like the Citadel might be in, or are all the slots filled?
No, it's just 4 teams. So it's us, we play Wyoming, and then Norfolk State plays UTEP, and then the next night, winners play winners, losers play losers. So it's just 4 teams.
Let me ask you about UNC Asheville. It's a team ETSU has played a long time ago, had their coach when he was hired on here, and he was like, yeah, okay, he's from Elizabethton. What would you say about playing UNCA again?
Well, we'd play anybody, anywhere, anytime. They know that. We've reached out to them and all the local universities. And, scheduling is an individual thing for each team, each school. Everybody does what's best for them. So I can't really say why or why not they won't play us. But right now, they're not on the schedule.
All right. Now, it's tough, I know, sometimes when you're good to schedule. I remember Ed DeCellis telling me that back in the day. Tell me, now that you're scheduling here, now that you're winning, have there been schools that maybe before said, yeah, let's play the Bucks, it'll be an easy victory, and now it's, they were almost won the conference last year, and they went to the NCAAs before then. Are there teams like that are now saying, I will get back to you?
Yeah, it's the hardest thing that I do. I find recruiting easier than scheduling. And we've won 24, 27, 25 games, and so it's very, very hard to get games. It's not hard to get road games. It's hard to get home games and get people to come here because we don't pay teams to come here. The bigger schools, as you know, in the Power 5 conferences, they pay teams to come in and play for an amount of money, a guarantee. We don't do that. And so we have to play true home and homes or 2-for-1s or however we can do it to get quality home games. And so that part makes it really difficult. And yes, and unfortunately, I have a hard time with this. I think sometimes the bigger schools look at us as a bad loss, and what I've tried to convince them is, every year our RPI has always been in the top 100. It's not a bad loss if you lose.
There you are here. But you're a connected man. You're at Tennessee. You're at Wichita State.
Yeah.
I know that in the past, a lot of times coaches, they'll schedule teams that they have a contact with.
Yeah.
When Murray Bartow was here, they had Texas Tech because of his ties with Bobby Knight. Have your old contacts been saying, we'll get back in touch with you?
Well, the difference is that Bobby Knight never came here.
True.
He lived there, and I could get any of those kind of games. I could go to Virginia Tech. I could go to Wichita State. I could go to Texas A&M. I'm trying to get teams to come here. And so that's the difference in that. And, I continue to have conversations with, like you said, some of my friends over 30 years now that I've been in the business, trying to convince them to come here. But it's just, again, and the other problem is, I think you and I had this discussion before, the power schools are going to more conference games. So they're playing 20 conference games. And so now that's even limited their non-conference games by 2 more games. And so the chances of them coming on the road are just not very good.
The FBI probe. We keep hearing that all these teams are going to go on probation.
Yeah.
There have been some coaches that have lost their jobs, but it would seem, assuming that ETSU isn't one of the teams that are going to be on the FBI probe, that would maybe have a trickle-up effect for some mid-major teams. have you thought about this? How do you think the FBI probe could affect an ETSU?
Well, right now I don't think it'll affect us at all, just because, I don't really know the investigation or what's going on. I read what you read, and so, the guys that have been affected have been assistant coaches, and a couple head coaches, or one at least has lost his job, and so I think to be honest with you, I think it's probably still going to play out. I don't think it's probably over yet, but they're going to do it on their own time frame, and so I guess we're just going to have to sit back and wait and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, that's a non-committal answer, but what can you say? Recruiting. You've always had sort of a national, with the junior college context, look towards recruiting. And I'm curious, now that you've had some success at ETSU, traditionally sometimes when mid-majors go to, let's say a Tennessee school goes to California, you might hear something like that. Is that D1?
Yeah.
Are you still hearing that about ETSU?
Well, I heard it about 3 weeks ago. I went to see the Raptors play. Now, I'll tell you the story. So I went to the Raptors. My best friend is Nick Nurse, assistant for the Raptors, and the assistant coach working with him asked me if we were Division I, and I got a good chuckle out of that. No, we're not hearing that. I think ETSU has its own brand, and we continue to build on that, and winning really helps that along the way. I think right now we've signed 5 really, really good players, and we've got a couple scholarships left, and we're going to continue to find the right people to fill our roster, and that may be next week, it may be a month from now, it may be August. They signed Jalen McLeod last August, and he was an all-league player for us.
Now we're talking to Steve Forbes here on Tri-City Sports Now, looking at the recruiting that you said. Do you have right now penciled in a depth chart on who your starting 5 might be for November?
No, we lost 5 starters, and that's always wide open. Now we do have some guys returning that I have a lot of faith in. Bo Hodges was the freshman of the year in our league, and really truly played out of position. We played him at the 4. We'll play him at the 3 next year. Milad Armas was the all-freshman team, came on really strong late, left to go home about 3 weeks ago for a month and weighed 242 pounds. I mean, he's really gotten strong. I thought Jerome Rodriguez didn't play at all last year. In my opinion, he was either our best player or our second-best player going into the fall. And so those guys are very encouraging. We have Patrick Good sitting out all year long, had a great year sitting out from here in town, and a great shooter. James Harrison will get more playing time. Next year he can score the basketball. Kanaya, can shoot the ball. And so, we've got those guys. We've got a good core group of guys coming back. I feel like we've done a really good job, of filling our needs of the guys that we lost.
Well, you mentioned Patrick Good, who's kind of the last really local guy. And by that I mean Northeast Tennessee. I mean, Brad Knuckles was from the area, but Northeast Tennessee, the first real local star to kind of play for ETSU that I can recall since Ryan Lawson, which was about 15 years ago, before you were here. What kind of contributions do you think that Good can make? Do you think this can be a starter for ETSU?
Well, no question. I mean, those positions are wide open, and what he showed me this year, he's definitely a guy that's going to contend for a starting position. First and foremost, he's a tremendous kid. Works really, really hard. Works very hard in the weight room. Put 14 pounds of muscle on him this year. Really good leadership skills. Great work ethic. As you said, he can really shoot the ball. I think his freshman year at App State, I think he hit 60-plus threes in his freshman year in Division I. Those are really good numbers. And so we're expecting him to come in next year and obviously shoot the ball, but do a lot of other things for our team as well, as far as leadership and ball handling and passing.
Well, let me go back to one final question about scheduling. ETSU and Appalachian State, that's an old rivalry, but now they're not in the same conference. It is kind of like Pitt, Penn State, Tulane, LSU, something of that nature. Would having Good on the team actually prevent maybe Appalachian State from playing you guys? Because, they don't want him to beat you. They don't want to be beaten by him.
I don't think so, because I've been here 3 seasons without Pat playing, and we haven't played. And we've tried, and it's just not going to work, and it's not because of us. We've asked every year to play, but, Coach Fox and his program, they have their philosophy in scheduling, and, I'm not mad at them for that. That's their choice. For me personally, I would like to renew that, right over the mountain and play the game, play Asheville, but right now those two programs have a different philosophy in their scheduling, and so there's really nothing I can do about it.
I'm fascinated by scheduling, and I do want to ask though one final question. I know Murray Bartow now is the assistant at UCLA. I can remember a generation ago when ETSU played at Pauley Pavilion.
Right.
It wasn't very successful, but let me ask you, would a game like that on the road, a game, let's say at the Palestra, a game against Kentucky, does that help with recruiting?
I don't know if it helps with recruiting. I think it helps our team. I think it's good to put them in those kind of situations and put them on a big stage against good players and see how they react. I don't think, Marky, I don't think kids choose schools based on who they play. I'll give you an example. When I was at Tennessee, we never lost at Memphis the whole time I was there in FedEx Forum. But that didn't open up the Memphis pipeline for recruiting. I just don't think kids really make decisions based on games or won or lost. I do think it's a great experience for our team. I do think it's a great experience for our fans to go to places like you just said, the Palestra, Pauley Pavilion. We played in Rupp last year. When we have another game like that, we have to get yet on our schedule. And we're working on that right now.
Well, we know Creighton. That's the Big East. That's not a bad matchup, but nothing. I mean, the last I read was last week. No new games scheduled this past week.
No, it's like I said, it's a work in progress. Coach Savage, who really is in charge of our, he works with me with the schedule. He got married on Saturday, so he's in Aruba right now on his honeymoon, and so probably won't talk about schedule until he gets back next week.
He's Steve Forbes. He's had a couple of good seasons. He's been on Tri-City Sports Now.